Hi everyone. For today's workout, all you're going to need is a chair and you may need the wall for a couple of exercises that we're doing. Now, this workout does include a little bit more strength training than mobility, so just go to your limit and of course, as always, don't push through any discomfort that you may get through your spine. So starting off, I'm going to take a seat on top of my chair. We're going to warm up a little bit first, so just make sure you're sitting up right over the top of your pelvis. Really draw your belly button into your spine, and if you are a little bit unstable through your pelvis and you do get lower back pain occasionally, just sit a little bit further back into your chair. So starting off, I'm going to go into gentle marching. Now, if you are pretty athletic and you like to push yourself a little bit harder with some of the exercises that you do, you can bring a little bit more movement into it and do fast feet. So quickly marching on the spot, just bringing your knees up just a little bit higher than your hips, not any further than that. And if you really want to push yourself, you can bring your arms into it too. So we're just going to go for about 30 seconds here. Make sure you don't have any downstairs neighbors, or if you live in an apartment that you're going to drive crazy. And we'll go for about 15 more seconds here. So really marching on the spot, or you can go as slowly as you like, just to bring a little bit more movement and a bit more warmth into your hips. So let's go for 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one here. All right. Sitting up nice and tall over the top of your pelvis, make sure that your shoulders are back and down. So you do need to be sitting up tall enough so that your hips are in along the same plane as your knees. Make sure that you're not rotating downwards through your pelvis. So from here, sitting up nice and tall over the top of your spine, and then you're going to bring your heels right up in the air and lower them back down with control. So really lift your heels up high and then lower the heels all the way back down. So we're focusing on strengthening those little muscles that are attaching from the behind the knee all the way down to our heels, so our little calf muscles. Now in this movement here, we're not getting the muscle, the great big muscle belly that crosses over the knee joint. We're going to be getting into that a little bit later. We're getting into the smaller muscle belly that sits behind the gastroc, which is the soleus muscle. So really bring your heels up high, really keep your shoulders back and down and keep your chest proud. We'll go for 4 more here. And 3, and 2, and very last one here. Okay. The next movement we're going to go into to warm up through the hips a little is a straight leg raise. Now for this one, I'm going to bring my hands behind me and I'm going to lean backwards just a little in my chair. So you'll see here, shoulders are still back and down, chest is still proud, and now I'm going to straighten my legs all the way out. And from here, I'm going to lift up a long straight leg and then lower it back down. So for this movement, I don't want you to feel like you need to rock back and forward. Try to stay leaning back, but keep your trunk nice and still as you alternate single leg lifts. Try not to also shrink into your chest. So broaden your chest, really bring your collarbones to meet the ceiling, and single leg lift and lower. So really lift up and lower back down. Keep your belly button drawing into your spine and alternate the leg lifts. Now, if this is too much for you, you're finding that it's quite uncomfortable through the front of your hips, what you can do instead is just bring one knee up high, lower it back down, then bring the other knee up high and lower it back down. As long as you're really keeping your trunk nice and steady, you're holding onto the chair next to your hips, and you're really keeping those shoulders back and down. So either straight leg lifts for more of a challenge, or single leg knee lifts up towards the chest, and bend the knee as much as you need to make it a little bit easier. We'll go for 3 more here, and 2, and last one there. Well done. Okay. Coming up to sit right up on top of your sit bones again, so you should feel your 2 little sit bones nice and tall sitting up on the seat. And now from here, I'm going to go into a little pivot movement. So this is bringing some mobility into our lower thoracic and lumbar spine. So my knees are going to twist in one direction as my upper body twists in the other, and then I alternate. So as I twist towards the left, my knees go to the right, and then as I twist towards the right, my knees go to the left. So just twisting through the spine. And if holding onto opposite shoulders is uncomfortable, you can just have your hands resting wherever you like, even out in front of the body, as long as you're really twisting yourself out in a slow, controlled fashion. So you'll see here, my knees are rocking from one side over to the other, and my chest twists in the opposite way. We'll go for 3, and 2, and last one here. All right, okay, now getting into a little bit more strength training with the upper body, and you don't even need any weights for this because honestly I find it challenging enough. So I'm going to come towards the edge of my chair a little more, bringing my feet out in front of me, and then I'm going to lean forwards over my thighs. Now, this movement is actually quite difficult to get into the perfect position, so I really want you to pay particular attention to how your spine is moving. So one cue that I like is imagine that you're almost bringing just your bottom rib only towards your thighs, so only your bottom rib. So you're not rounding all the way over your thighs. You really want to control the roll forward so that your ribs are just resting on your thighs. Another way to think about it is coming forwards with a really proud chest. So you'll see here my spine is in a neutral position. I'm poking my bottom out and only the top of my pelvis is rotating forwards as I stick my tailbone out behind me. So holding that position there, and now we're going to bring our arms out wide to the sides of us. So my arms are going to start down beside my body and I'm keeping my spine in that same position, and then leading with my thumbs turning outwards, I open my arms out wide and then lower back down. So I'm keeping my chin slightly tucked to my chest. I'm really leaning forwards over my thighs and drawing my belly button in, and I open my arms out wide and then lower back down. So here I'm really spiraling my collarbones open, and then I lower my arms back down. Open out wide and lower back down. Now I know some of you have shoulder issues, so if that's the case, just keep your arms nice and narrow to the side of your body. So start at the shins and then really pull your shoulder blades together with your arms out wide beside you. Squeezing shoulder blades for 3, always palms down to the floor, spiraling thumbs outwards, and 2, and then we'll do one last one here. Fantastic work. All right, you should feel your back feeling a little bit more warm now. So now we're going to do one more seated exercise before we come up to standing. So for this movement, I wiggle back slightly in my chair. So I'm not right at the back, I'm about halfway along my seat. My feet are going to be just wider than hip distance apart, and I'm going to rest my hands on my thighs. I'm going to lean forwards, and then I'm going to come all the way back up to tall sitting. So it's almost as if you want to lean forwards to stand up, but you're not going to come all the way up. So think about leaning forwards and then push through the heels to bring yourself all the way back up to standing. Lean forwards and come up to standing. Inhale as you come down, exhale as you come up to standing. Or still seated, I should say. Not standing, we're still in our chairs. Leaning forwards, let's go for 5. Make sure that you're not rounding your back. You want beautiful posture as you lean forwards. So only lean as far forwards as you can maintain that beautiful neutral spine. Let's go 2 more here. And last one here. Fantastic work. Roll those shoulders right back and down, and now we're going to come up to standing. So I'll move my chair out of the way, but we still will be using it for a couple of exercises. So I'm now actually going to change my little angle of my screen so you can see me. Okay. So starting up nice and tall, and I'm going to bring my feet just wider than hip distance apart, so only just wider than my hips here, and hands are going to rest down by my sides. Now you can absolutely do this movement up against the wall. So when I mentioned at the start of this video that you can use your wall, I like to use it for a little bit of sensory feedback because it means that I'm not leaning forwards or backwards because I get the feedback from having the wall right up against my back. But I'm going to demonstrate facing the camera. So if you know that your body does have issues bending from side to side, place your back and head up against a wall so that you can't lean forwards or backwards and come away from the wall. So here I'm making sure that my heels are planted on the ground, my hands are by my side, and what I'm going to do is gently bend all the way down to one side. So here I'm trying to bring my hand down to the outside of my knee, and then I come all the way back up. Now what I'm doing here to really focus on a good quality movement is I'm really drawing my belly button into my spine and connecting hip bone to hip bone through strong abdominals. I'm also squeezing my bottom during the movement. So you'll see here I'm bending through the spine, through the side of my body, and then I'm coming all the way back up. So avoid shifting your hips right out of the way because that is cheating. So I want you to think about your hips being in a little chimney and your upper body is just bending over to the side and then coming all the way back up. So we alternate here. We slide down to one side and then come all the way back up. Hips stay still, upper body really bends to the side and then come all the way back up. So shoulders are back and down, belly button is drawing into spine, and glutes are squeezing during the movement part of this exercise. So they relax here and then they squeeze as I go down and keep squeezing as I come back up. So that stops you from poking your bottom out too much if you're really engaging through your glutes. So one side, coming back up, and then over to the other side. We're going to do this for about 30 more seconds. So if you would like more of a challenge, what you can do is go into a little single arm reach right up overhead, and then bring that arm back down, and then over to the other side, single arm reach up overhead. That's only if your shoulders will allow for that kind of movement. Otherwise, stay with your arms down by your sides. We'll do one more on each side, reaching that arm up overhead, and the last one on the side here. Excellent work. You should feel a little stretch through the sides of your body. Remember, if you do experience any pain with lateral flexion, the movement that we were just doing, please let me know and I'll give you a modification that you can easily do at home. Now from here, we're going to go into a little bit of a squat-like movement. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to come up behind my chair, and then I'm going to hold on to the back, and I'm going to sit right back towards my heels, and then I'm going to come all the way back up. So really sitting my hips back, there's a good bend in my knees, but I'm holding onto the back of my chair so that I'm really not bringing my knees forward. So really focus on keeping the weight through the heels. Your knees are tracking between your second and third toes of each foot, but really focus on sitting back into an imaginary chair behind you and then coming all the way back up. So really sit back behind you and then come back up. Let's go for 5 more here. Really well done, and we'll go for 4 more. So really sit back and then come back up, and 3, poking the bottom out and coming back up tall, and 2, really well done. And let's do one last movement here, sitting right back towards your heels and coming all the way back up. Quickly getting into those other calf muscles that I mentioned before, so your little gastrocs that cross the knee joints. So we need to keep our legs straight for this one. Try not to hold on to your chair, come right up onto the toes and then lower back down. Make sure that you're not rocking forward, so try not to use too much weight through your hands on the back of the chair. So calves lift, so you're really lifting up with your calves and heels are coming up high and then lower back down. Now a little progression here is to rock back the other way, so then lifting the forefoot off the ground. Heels lift up high, and then toes lift off the ground. We'll go for 2 more in each direction. Heels lift off and toes lift off. Squeeze the bottom and lift the heels off the ground, and then relax and toes come up. And last one, squeeze the butt and lift the heels. Beautiful, and then lift the toes. Beautiful work. Okay, for this next exercise, I'm going to give you an option. Now, I must stress, absolutely make sure that your chair is fixed in position because I don't want you to accidentally push your chair right over. Easier option here is to hold onto the back of the high part of your chair. An alternative option here, for more of a challenge, is to use the seat of your chair. So I'm going to be demonstrating with the seat of my chair here, and I'm going to bring myself back into a plank position. So remember, it is easier to have your hands up higher. So you could even do this on your kitchen bench and it would be a sufficient challenge. So I'm bringing my feet back behind me. Now I don't want to be a Sydney Harbour Bridge with my bottom high up in the air. So make sure that you're bringing your hips forward just a little and really draw your belly button into your spine. So you still want your hips above the line of your knees. So you don't want to be sinking right down into this position either. So try and find some little happy medium where you're not right up high, but you are bringing your chest forward so that it's over the top of your wrists. From here, we're going to either hold a plank for level 1 or for a little bit more of a challenge, see if you can touch one shoulder and then lower that hand back down and then touch the other shoulder and bring that hand back down. So you'll see here my hips are not moving. I want you to really try and keep your hips as still as possible while you go into alternating shoulder touches. So shoulders are back and down, elbows are slightly softened, chin is slightly tucked, draw your belly button into your spine and alternate these shoulder touches. Now, of course, if you have any shoulder issues that don't allow you to go into single arm plank holds, what you can do instead is hold a normal plank and go into a single leg lift and lower that leg back down and then lift the other leg and lower that leg back down. So we are here for 20 more seconds. So really find an option that challenges you, that doesn't hurt you. Keep that belly button drawing into the spine, single leg lift and lower and alternate. So you'll see here I'm really keeping my trunk nice and steady. We've got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest there. Fantastic work. You can go into a little stretch if it feels nice. Otherwise, get your chair out of the road because we're going to do one last exercise that doesn't require the chair. From here, I'm going to bring my feet just about wider than hip distance, not too much wider than hip distance, and I'm going to go into a little more of a deadlift movement with a reach forward. So I'm not going to bend at my knees hugely here. What I'm really going to focus on doing is sending my hips right back towards the wall behind me as I reach my arms forward. Now, if it is uncomfortable to reach the arms forward, simply do the movement just with the hips. So I'm sitting my hips right back behind me and coming up to standing up tall. But if you do have the range through your shoulders, reach the arms forward because it definitely brings your heart rate up a lot more. So you'll see here that I'm maintaining a neutral spine, no rounding through my back. My hips are really jetting right back towards the wall behind me as I keep the weight evenly through my heels and making sure that my toes don't come off the ground either. So I'm really stable through my entire foot. Now, we've got 20 seconds left, so I'm going to give you a little option to add a jump as you come out of your little squat movement. That brings in a little more impact, which is wonderful for improving your bone mineral density. Alternatively, just stay with your squat and reach. Really sit back with the reach and then come up tall. Let's go for 3 more here. Sitting right back, come up tall. And 2. Fantastic work. And one last one here. Beautiful work. Okay, you should be feeling warm and toasty and ready to take on the rest of your weekend. Thank you all for joining me for these exercises. I really hope you do enjoy them, and always give me feedback if you would like me to include a different type of exercise. I'd be more than happy to oblige. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. Bye.